Hi everyone. I hope you're hearing and seeing me okay. Welcome to those of you joining me. My name is Sophia. I'm a Yes Abroad alumnus from 2014-2015. So I did the Yes Abroad program in Morocco in 2014. And I'm going to be joined today by one of my co-alumni, not someone from my year, but someone who went to the same Yes Abroad country as I did. And we're both going to be talking a little bit about the Yes Abroad program in Morocco. So I'm going to go ahead and add my friend Catherine. If you'll just stay with me for a moment while I do that, we will get started as soon as I add her. Just one moment. Hello, hi, I see lots of you guys joining in. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate today with you. Share our experiences. I'll just wait for Catherine.
Hello, Sophia,
Hi,
and hello,
Cat.
everyone.
How are you, Catherine?
Good, how are you? Thanks for getting this set up, and thanks to everyone who's joining. I'm so looking forward to this.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Catherine, I'm in your room. I hope that's okay.
That's totally fine.
So maybe we can just start by introducing ourselves. I gave a little bit of background. Like I said, I did the Yes Abroad program in Morocco, 2014-15. And Catherine, you were my Yes Abroad PDO leader, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, so I did the Yes Abroad program 2013, 2014 in Morocco, and I am now living in Tunis with Sophia. So we are roommates now, so full circle Yes Abroad story, I guess. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like this is the kind of thing that happens a lot. I feel like I'm always running into Yes Abroad students around the world, through school, through work. So it's really nice to be able to share the program with someone else, especially someone who went to the same country as I did.
Yeah, and I think that we're I guess 7 or 6 or 7 years out from this experience now. So I think that's something that maybe we can talk about in the live a little bit is how we stay connected even as the years pass so quickly since our time on exchange.
Yeah, absolutely. So Catherine, maybe we could start actually before Yes Abroad and talk about why we applied or what made us interested in the Yes Abroad program. Because I feel like it's really different for a lot of different high school students, and everyone has something that kind of brings them to it. What about you? What is it that made you find Yes Abroad and interested in applying?
Yeah, so I think it really came from at first I knew that I wanted to do a program where I could learn French. So it was a bit disconnected from I guess, the mission of Yes Abroad. And then when I found out about Yes Abroad and that you could go to Francophone countries as well as so many other countries, I feel like the idea of this cultural exchange really resonated with me and the idea of really going to high school with other people and sharing that very like day-to-day contact with people in the host country is something that's so unique about Yes Abroad. So once I found out about that there was such a program, I feel like I was so drawn to the level of cultural immersion it offers. What about you?
Yeah, it was quite similar for me. So, since we both went to Yes Abroad, Morocco, we both know that we spoke a little bit of French at least before we went on program. So, I was definitely also looking for somewhere where I could sort of improve my French and get it beyond that beginner intermediate level. But more, I was also looking for an exchange program where I could spend more than a few months in a place. I had done a short-term exchange program in France in high school, and I loved it. I really loved the host family experience, but it was only a couple of weeks, and I remember feeling so exhausted at the end of it, and like I hadn't really gotten comfortable and settled in my life there. So I was really interested in doing something a little bit more long-term where I could feel like a normal high school student in that country.
Yeah. And do you feel like Yes Abroad, like I know that something we talk a lot about at PDOs and throughout the program is, managing our expectations. Like how did you feel like the program sort of differed from those expectations, or was it kind of in line with the reality day to day in Morocco?
Yeah, for the most part, it was. I think the kind of ironically, the most memorable experiences that I have in Morocco were probably the same kinds of experiences I would have had in the United States, but they were just in Morocco. So like when I got accepted to college in Morocco, I got my first college acceptance. I remember celebrating with my host mom and my host sisters, and it was the little moments like that, the good ones and also the bad ones, that just happen in your life, kind of as a young person, that I remember were made me realize sort of, okay, I'm living the same kind of life that I would be living in the U.S. I'm just in a different family. I'm in a different culture, and going to a different kind of high school. So I feel like it did match up to those expectations that I would be, having my ups and my downs and really normal days for the most part. What about you,
Yeah.
Catherine?
Yeah, I think that really resonates with me. And I think something that's so great about Yes Abroad is that you really do get to share the mundane parts of daily life with your host family and with your friends, with your cohort in some cases. And I feel like I came to really like it was exciting to just like run into people on the street when I didn't expect it, or to know that there's going to be some type of routine every weekend in my host family where they like clean and cook together, and to get to be part of that. And I think that yeah, finding and creating a home through those daily rituals is kind of what makes the Yes Abroad experience so meaningful for me.
Definitely, yeah. Catherine, are you seeing the live comments we're getting, or do you want me to read some of them to you?
Oh, wow! I didn't realize you could like scroll down.
Yeah, no worries. So someone just asked, like, what city were we in? We were both in Rabat, in the capital city. So to this day, I think that's where all of the Yes Abroad Morocco students are placed. Not all Yes Abroad students are placed in the capital city, but in Morocco, that is the case. So yeah, I know that we both went to the same high school, and that can change, but we were at least in the capital city.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm seeing that comments. I see any tips on application essays.
Um,
Mm.
yeah, I certainly have tips for application essays, both for general ones for applying to things in life and also for Yes Abroad ones specifically. I think for Yes Abroad application essays, the most important thing to keep in mind is to, oh, I'm so sorry, my cat is in front of the camera. Um, the most important thing, in my opinion, is to kind of show who you are really and not try to fit a certain profile or fit in with exactly who you think the program might be looking for. The Yes Abroad program is so unique in that they're really looking for people who are willing to go outside of their comfort zone and try something new and be sort of independent in their host communities in a lot of ways. So I think a lot of times people they might think that they need to fit their application to a certain kind of profile when the program is really looking for people who are willing to just be themselves. What do you think, Catherine? What's important for a Yes Abroad application essay?
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And I think another thing is just to try to learn as much as about the program as you can, as you're writing the essays. And I think that that when applicants really know what the Yes Abroad program is and perhaps how it's different from other similar programs, and really can speak to why they're drawn to it, because that's really what I think the readers want to hear, is like why Yes Abroad and not some other program that's offered. And so I think just the more the applicants can speak to the reasons that they want to do the program, I think that's really great, great things to include in the essays.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, Catherine, a lot of people I know in their essays, they talk about what they want to do in the future, maybe their dreams for be it college or even their careers afterwards. And I know that a lot of people also have those things change while they're on program if they are accepted and they participate. And of course, they change afterwards as well. They change all throughout your youth and even young adulthood. But with all of that said, did your goals or thoughts about the future kind of shift while you were on Yes Abroad, or did Yes Abroad have any impact on this?
Yeah, I think that when I came into Yes Abroad, I had really the vaguest idea in my mind to work abroad in some capacity, after, down the line. And I think that during the program, through the capstone experience, which like each Yes Abroad student gets to kind of define and shape for themselves, I realized that I really enjoy doing research. And so I've kind of followed that sort of strand of interest throughout university and after graduating. So I feel like participating in the capstone aspect and getting to propose a research topic and get support on making it happen is something that really made me believe in what I wanted to do down the line. What about for you?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I love that that mention of the capstone. I feel like that's something that is easy to forget about or gloss over, but it is really a big part of your Yes Abroad experience, regardless of where you are. For me, sort of similarly, I knew that I wanted to work abroad and live abroad, and this was a good way of confirming that, but also helping me to see realistically what that was like. So some of the challenges of that, and seeing what it was really like to live long term overseas rather than sort of just traveling overseas and having short term trips. So this did confirm that I wanted to, yeah, work abroad, and it also confirmed my interest in the whole region, the Middle East, North Africa region, where I've remained and where I currently live, as do you. Um, so I feel like it didn't as much shift as much as kind of confirm those interests, as well as my interest in cultural exchange. So I still work in international education, and I sort of have since Yes Abroad. So I currently work for Amadis, which was my implementing organization during Yes Abroad. So yeah, it showed me the impact of cultural exchange, and that's what I work in today. So it's something that I really believe in.
Yeah. I'm wondering since you've lived abroad since Yes Abroad and gone on to have other experiences in the Middle East and in other parts of the world, can you maybe speak a little bit to how those experiences have been different or how Yes Abroad is different from the experiences that you've had since then?
Yeah, absolutely. The way that I sort of look at Yes Abroad, especially as I get a little bit of distance from it, is that it really was you know, it was really the life that a regular 16 or 17-year-old in Morocco would be living in many ways. So now I'm sort of an independent young adult in Tunisia, and it was also the case in other countries where I've lived after Yes Abroad. But I think that's one of the biggest things that I value in my Yes Abroad experience was that I really was a young person living.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry.
sorry, my screen time paused for the for Instagram usage today. So during Yes Abroad, I felt like I was really a young person living in a family, and I had my chores and my different roles in my host family. And in a lot of ways, that's not something that I had in my other experiences overseas. So I feel like that's one of the biggest benefits of Yes Abroad is that you don't really feel like you're on a program or in a cohort. You really feel in many ways like you're a part of a host family, even if you end up changing host families or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of
So,
sense.
Catherine, I wanted to ask you specifically about languages as well, because I know we've both had a decent exposure to um, our host languages after Yes Abroad, if you want to count French and Arabic as our two kind of languages in our host country. So I wonder, have you, in a way, been able to keep up or maintain or even get better at your host language, if you want to talk about French and or Arabic, since Yes Abroad?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think Yes Abroad gave me that we got the really good day-to-day kind of Darija skills for getting around, Moroccan Arabic skills for getting around and stuff. And since then, I really focused on learning Arabic in other contexts. And I think most recently spent several months in Morocco kind of doing an intensive language program through Fulbright. And I feel like being able to actually get to a point of having more advanced skills in Darija and to be able to have some of those conversations that I didn't get fluency with on on to that level on Yes Abroad is really exciting and makes me want to continue to work and adjust to Tunisian Arabic and all the other varieties of Arabic that we encounter in our lives. And I think that I feel like Yes Abroad is really great because a lot of students get exposed to languages that we wouldn't have heard of before. And I know for me, like my host family was Amazigh and they spoke Tashilhate. And so I ended up becoming curious about that. And then during COVID, took like a little online intro beginner class in that area. So I think it's exciting to see how Yes Abroad can kind of take you down different language pathways you might not have explored otherwise. I don't know. Yeah. And I know that you've also had a lot of exposure to French and Arabic. How do you like, you find yourself using those languages now?
Yeah, absolutely. That's I knew that you had taken a Taschelhit class, but I hadn't realized that it started all the way back during Yes Abroad with your host family. That's super sweet. That's really cool.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Yeah, so I went to college in French Canada, which is where I got to kind of continue my French speaking. And so in Quebec and Montreal, I was using my French every day there. And I feel like I without Yes Abroad, I might not have had the comfort and the fluency in French to be able to kind of not only commit to living in a francophone city for 4 years, and living most of my life in French, but also I am at one point during college I took a job that was fully in French, and at that point my only French exposure had been really in Morocco. So I feel like it has brought a lot of opportunities to me. The French that I was able to improve while I was in Morocco, I certainly, I spoke French, but I wasn't that good when I went on Yes Abroad, and my time going to school in French in Morocco helped a lot. And that's brought a lot of opportunities into my life, so I'm grateful for that. As well as, of course, I live in an Arabic-speaking country now, and yeah, Yes Abroad was my first exposure to Arabic, and I've lived in a few other Arab countries, but yeah, I always tell people like Moroccan Arabic was the first one that I learned. It was a great kind of crash course to be in my host family in Morocco, speaking Moroccan Arabic and learning a bit, like you said.
Yeah. Something that I feel like is like kind of running through our conversation is how like the Yes Abroad experience is really like a beginning of so many other experiences and curiosities and ways of thinking. And I think that maybe for students who are on program or at the end of the program, it can be really sad to think about this chapter ending and kind of letting go of those 10 months a little bit and going back to the US. So I'm curious if you can speak to how that was for you transitioning back to the US and kind of how you connect today, I guess, to your abroad experience.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the thing, sort of like you mentioned, the thing that has made me remain so connected to my Yes Abroad experience has been the alumni network. Um, so I obviously know you through the alumni network. We weren't on program together. And a lot of my other friends come from not only my cohort, but also alumni from other years who I, in some cases, haven't even met in person. So I feel like, whether it's professionally, kind of networking with them, learning about different opportunities, talking to people who are doing things that I'm interested in, or personally, just, maintaining friendships and becoming friends with people who did Yes Abroad. I feel like that's a really nice way to stay connected. I also, I'm still in touch with my host family and some of the friends that I made during Yes Abroad. And I've been back to Morocco once or twice, but even if I hadn't been back to Morocco and didn't have any plans to go back, I think that being a Yes Abroad student is always kind of one of the first things that comes up. If I'm meeting someone in another country and maybe they did a different exchange program, and even other exchange students I find who didn't do Yes Abroad, who did another exchange program, there's always that connection to kind of chat with them about and share different experiences and things like that. What
Yeah.
about you? How have you managed to stay connected to Yes Abroad since you finished the program?
Yeah, I think similarly to you, like the alumni network is a really important part of my life, and yeah, in different ways, socially, professionally, and I find that like Yes Abroad and the Yes program kind of show up in the most random places. I was in a village in Lebanon a couple summers ago doing interviews with a family, and they had a son who was a couple years older than me, and we got to talking, and it turned out that he was a Yes alum, and it was the most random, felt like the most random coincidence at the time. And I feel like that Yes and Yes Abroad alumni are just doing really interesting things kind of all over the world. And so it's always wherever I go, I try to, plug into that network and get to know what people are doing because I feel like it's just a great way to get to know new people. And yeah, I think that like living with you, like having, yeah, friends through work and stuff who are also Yes Abroad alums, it just kind of keeps on snowballing into something more.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. That's a great way of putting it too. So I wonder if we can talk a little bit. I know that people are curious about the kind of logistics of the Yes Abroad program. So maybe we could talk about what year we were and whether we got credit and all of those things, how we sort of, how the structure of our academic lives led into Yes Abroad and also following it. How did that
Yeah.
work for you logistically?
Yeah, so logistically, it was my plan to transfer my credits back to my high school in Michigan, and I had gotten permission for them, and that was going to work out. And then I ended up going to school in Canada for 2 years after that, so I didn't have to transfer it, but I still had the Yes Abroad transcript when I applied to colleges, and I think that was a little bit hard to secure from our school in Morocco at the time. And I don't know if that's still the case, but I think that's something good for students to be aware of is that if you're going to need documentation from your host school, to make sure that you can get that in advance and give plenty of time and secure it before you leave the country if at all possible. Because yeah, like you said, yeah, this is something that everyone kind of has to plan around differently because all our schools back in the US kind of work differently. Yeah, what about for you?
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice to sort of work with the host school that you have and also your home school and the program. I think that one thing we all had in common was that the program kind of worked with us individually on that. I know that a lot of people, including yourself, it sounds like, had sort of unique circumstances about my homeschool is willing to do this, or I'm doing this next year and it wasn't my plan. And I know that the program was really able to work with everyone to make sure that to whatever extent they were able to, they were able to kind of secure the documents that they needed and get everything that was required. Yeah, sort of similarly, I was a junior when I applied, so I went for my senior year of high school. But then I actually decided because I had enough credits and my high school I think offered it. I decided to graduate before I did Yes Abroad. So that summer, before I left for the program, I graduated early, so I had my diploma. So it ended up being sort of a senior year slash gap year because I had already graduated. And I went ahead and applied for college while I was on Yes Abroad, which is certainly something that people can do, and a lot of people do. And I would say that regardless of whatever logistical hurdles there are or struggles to get certain documents or whatever, if you're able to represent it well and explain what it's what skills it's taught you and things, it can be a great thing to have and a great experience to have to show some of the soft skills that you have.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious, what skills do you think Yes Abroad kind of gave you the chance to work on?
That's a good question. I mean, so many of them are like personal skills that I feel like are really crucial to who I am, that were sort of fundamental in me becoming an adult and growing up in many ways. I think the biggest one is sort of independence and being able to work out issues that I had, whether they were personal or academic or whatever, independently. Obviously, I had lots of contact with my family and they were really supportive and they were excited for me to do the program. But when it comes down to it, sometimes in country you have, small problems and you need to kind of learn to problem solve for yourself with the support of the program, of course. But I think that having that independence and being away from my family for a year really helped to push me to be independent. And I think it's a big part of why I'm, okay kind of living far from my parents even today because, they're just a phone call away. But also, I feel like since Yes Abroad, I've been able to have that independence and that flexibility that the program taught me. What about you, Catherine?
Yeah, I was also thinking about problem solving, and I think that Yes Abroad is a great program because for any serious issue that students have on program, the staff will support them, but also you like you said, you will encounter small issues, whether it's like trying to figure out your cell phone in a new country or transit to school or public transit, all those things. And in the moment, it's up to the Yes Abroad student to navigate that. And so I think that just gives you or that just gave me, I feel like, a confidence in myself that I didn't have before, especially, not having to navigate those things back home. And there's so many things that I know my parents were helping me with that I just really took for granted, whether it was like rides to an after school activity or just having their cell phone, that type of stuff. So as I go forward and go to new countries and figure that out on my own, I feel like I know that I can do it because I did it with Yes Abroad. And that's just like a really nice feeling of reassurance to have, even though that feeling of perhaps stress and unfamiliarity when you go to a new place isn't going to go away. At least we can believe in ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way of putting it, kind of your confidence and knowing even if you don't have a solution for something, you can figure it out or you can find people who can help you figure it out. You know, it's not, you're not all alone on program and in life in general, but even on program, you know, you've got your host family, your host community, the program staff, obviously. So even there, you know, you're learning problem solving with other people. You're not like alone and figuring everything out. I should have mentioned earlier, but if anyone does have any questions in the last few minutes that we're alive, please feel more than free to put them in the comments. I see some of you guys joining, so if anything we're saying does bring up any questions, you can feel free to ask them.
Yeah, and I see that someone asked, I'm from Iraq, can I apply? And if that person is still on there, the live, you can go to the Yes program and get details there if it's possible from your country, or yeah, that's where to look.
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, so, Catherine, what is like a general piece of advice that you would give to a future Yes Abroad student? Maybe they've been accepted and they're a finalist and they're thinking about the upcoming year for them. What would you tell someone about to leave on the Yes Abroad program?
I think that just easier said than done, but I think to manage your expectations of yourself and of what the program will be, and be open to different experiences and different ways of being on program that you might not anticipate. And I think that's, you know, managing expectations of self and of the world is something that's really challenging for people at all phases of life. It's something I still really struggle with sometimes. So I think that's what I would tell my previous Yes Abroad self, and I guess other students going out onto the program. What about you?
Yeah, that is something really important, and that's something that they really highlight in the pre-departure orientation. But like you said, it is easier said than done in the moment. It's easy to I think I'm back, or maybe I was never gone. But anyway, my phone just went to sleep. I think that that's like you said, it's easier said than done, and it's easy in the moment to kind of picture the ideal exchange student life. Maybe you've seen it in a blog or a YouTube video or whatever. Um, but yeah, I think the way that someone put it for me one time, I think it was when I was on program, was that all of the categories of exchange, you know, language learning, your host family, your friends, your host school, your maybe it's volunteering or extracurriculars. These are all different categories, and not all of them will be perfect at all times. Just like in the US, every kind of sphere of your life is not ideal at all times. And once I started seeing it like that, I started to really value the things that were great about my exchange. So, you know, the days that I felt maybe discouraged about my language learning, I really got to feel a connection with my host family and think, well, you know, I've got this relationship, and certainly maybe tomorrow I'll feel better about my language learning. And those things kind of fluctuate just like they do, you know, when you're back home in the US. So that's just a different way of saying manage expectations, I think. But it is really important when you're an exchange student.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I don't know if anyone has any last questions before we wrap up. Thank you all so much for watching and for joining us. This has been really fun.
Yeah, it really has. Thank you all. Feel free to add any questions that you have before we wrap up. Otherwise, I'll um, try to save this video and we will wrap up. Well, thanks to everyone who joined us and to those of you who did ask questions. It's been a pleasure to talk about our Yes Abroad experiences. I know, Catherine, it's been a while for us, but obviously we're, you know, I know you personally, and we're always really excited and happy to talk about, I guess, abroad experiences and kind of remember the little moments. So it's always a treat to be able to do that with others.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, thank you so much. This is so fun to think about Yes Abroad and wishing everyone who's applying all the best with those applications.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks everyone. Good luck with your applications, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evenings. Thanks again for joining me, Catherine. It's been really nice.
Thank you so much. Bye.
All right, bye bye. Thanks everyone for joining.